Fergal Keane in 2017 wrote an article at that particular time, and obviously he was a war correspondent and obviously suffered from PTSD, but he saw things that probably nobody wanted to see. But he talked about Northern Ireland and our peace, and he said, "Blessed are the peacemakers who were there from the start." And he was talking about John Hume and others, but really he wasn't talking about any politician. He was talking about the people like yourself on the ground who were there from the very beginning. Others people were very grateful they became peacemakers, and that's important because we saw an end of violence through the Good Friday Agreement. But there's so many quiet, courageous voices in communities who were there from the very start, and they're there today. So that's who we are recognising today. So we're going to call up each individual nominee, and if you come up to the stage, Paddy and Daphne will give you your certificate, and there is a small gift from the John and Pat Hume Foundation. And I mentioned Terry Cross earlier on. Terry Cross is a wonderful supporter of the Hume Foundation, integrated education, and he's the president of the Northern Ireland Red Cross as well. So he's very kind. He's got a distillery outside Belfast and Carryduff, and he's very kindly donated a bottle of wine for each of the nominees on the proviso that you open it before you leave here today. So, with no further ado, I'll start. Can I invite Elaine Burns O'Kane? So Elaine has for 35 years been a dedicated advocate for social justice and community empowerment, particularly within North Belfast. And she's been a key figure in the North Belfast Advice Partnership and has worked on many issues including housing, financial stability and supporting those most in housing stress. So obviously, and she just in 2016 founded the ABC Trust. So congratulations, Elaine Burns.
Oh, I think it was following in generations before me. My mother has been very much embedded in grassroots community development, and it was just natural for me to follow in her footsteps. I hope that we are already inspiring the next new young generation of young people. From my own perspective, I work with a wonderful team of young new male and females that are coming into the sector, and my hope is that, sometime in the near future that I can pass the mantle on to them and that they can then carry on the great work that's being done in North Belfast and across the North and take us into the next 25 years.
Next we have Janice Beggs, who grew up near the interface in Clifton Park Avenue, where she still resides, and has served as a community centre manager for the Lower Old Park Community Station for 15 years. And she's played a key role in the IFI Peace Barriers project and has been instrumental in enhancing community participation and regeneration efforts.
Being a peace builder, it's something that comes naturally. It's a passion that you have for the community you live in and the work that you want to do. So there's no real definition. It's part of you. It's part of your life. It's part of your existence and trying to make a difference in your community. Next 25 years, I don't think I'll be here, but it's about bringing younger generations on board so they can continue with the work of building peace in our society, which is still very much divided.
The next person is Davy Adams, but Davy Adams is in Dublin today, and obviously Davy was a former loyalist paramilitary and a politician, but he obviously severed those links with them many decades ago. Interestingly, he's been working for Goal in Africa and the Middle East for 15 years and received the Ebola medal for his work in Sierra Leone. He's one of our peace guardians, and he's written very much around peace and reconciliation today, and we will honour him in due course. Next, can I call Anne-Marie Bell forward? Anne-Marie grew up in the Chantalo during the Troubles, and conflict was everyday life for her. And she has been volunteered at a local youth club and has been involved with Pennyburn Youth Club since 1995. She strived to work to empower young people through encourage them to look beyond religion, discrimination and sectarianism.
I think that, you know, our young people are the future. Like we've a saying in our club, and it's welcome to Pennyburn Youth Club, where we inspire today's young people to become tomorrow's leaders. And that's my hope for the future, that these young people that I am working with now, that they will be the next generation, that they won't be kind of talking about the conflict. They'll talk about it in a more positive manner, and not saying, no, I don't want to work with that group, I don't want to work with that group, and no, I don't like lemons, or I don't like lemons. So the way we are now, as I say, we kind of look about being more tolerant towards everybody, respecting everybody, and just, you know, look at your values, look at your beliefs, certainly, but always make sure that everybody's involved and that nobody's left out. That there's something, that if you're in the youth club or you're in school or you're up the town and you see somebody on their own, maybe go and have a chat to them. Forget about religion, forget about race, forget about, you know, anything that there is there that's negative, and try and make things more positive for our young people in the future.
Bethany Muir is next. You can tell Bethany always by the colour of her hair. I'm going to get like that the next time. Bethany is a young feminist activist from Derry. During COVID, she trained as an abortion doula and has worked co-facilitated Alliance for Choice. She was Student Junior Welfare Officer at Queen's University, and she currently works with the Foyle Network Foundation.
I think for me the title of Peacebuilder is not something that I would ever give myself, so it's a huge honour to be, you know, given that award from the John and Pat Hume Foundation today. Really, my starting point started with activism. So when I went to university in Belfast, I started to get involved in lots of different groups, organising around abortion rights, LGBTQ+ rights, climate change awareness, all of those things. If there was a society there, I wanted to join it. So really that's where I built a lot of my skills, and I'm really privileged to come from a background of intergenerational activism. So I've been organising with Alliance for Choice Derry for the past 6 years, and that's how I've wound up here. My hopes for peace building is that it becomes more inclusive and intersectional as we diversify our wee corner of the world, as we like to say. So I think we need more voices, definitely more youth representation, more representation from marginalised communities. So, you know, whether that's migrants and refugees, people of colour that live here, LGBTQ+ communities. I want everyone to feel that they have a voice and that they have that power, because they do. It's just about stepping onto it. So I want as many people to join us to step up and continue this work as long as we need it.
Can I call on Damien McNally? Damien has worked in the field of peace building for many years and has been involved with Wave Trauma Centre since 2002 and was chair from 2007-2014. He's a trauma educator, and he also works with the Community Relations Council, and he has been working in peace building since the loss of his father, who was killed as a result of troubles in 1976. Thank you.
I suppose just really the background of myself. My father was killed as a result of the troubles just after I was born, and it's just something that I was really led to. When I outlived my father, when I turned 26, he was 26 when he died, and I kind of just wanted to kind of get into that area of work, and try to help in whatever small way I could. Going forward, again, it's just really about supporting the next generation of peace builders, particularly young people now. You know, their needs are a lot different to what ours were. They're living in a different environment to what we were. They have their own additional pressures, but it's just really about supporting and enable the next generation, and a big part of that is also supporting them through adequate funding and providing them with decent career opportunities, because it's such important work that we need to make sure we don't forget the lessons we've learned over the past 25 years.
We have two CRC reps in a row. Deirdre's former. Deirdre McBride is the next nominee. Deirdre has worked extensively on regeneration and integration in North Belfast, was Chief Executive of the Belfast European Partnership, served in the Northern Ireland Policing Board, worked as Programme Director of Cultural Diversity for the Northern Ireland Community Relations Council, and is working still today on ethical remembering.
It's the steps that people took with some bravery in their professional and their personal roles to hope and to try and build peace and to try and create a better future. And I think it's that sense of having hope and trying to create a better future that propelled me and many others to take a risk now and again for peace. My hope is that the vital work at local level in communities by staff and by volunteers continues to build peace, to progress peace by reaching out to other communities and by taking brave professional and personal steps to hope for and create a future in which there's a place for all of us and it's a fair place.
Next is Brian Caskey from Belfast. Brian has been the project lead for the last 11 years at the Limestone United Cross Community Initiative. He was a servant police officer in North Belfast and developed the Sports Across the Interface intervention to support young people coming together at interfaces.
As a community police officer, I witnessed a lot of violence involving young people at interfaces. I just felt there was a better way. My main aspiration was to keep young people away from the criminal justice system and into good relations. I think it's important that our young people are empowered to continue this journey for us. Like, I'm getting on a wee bit, and I would love to see the next generation of young leaders being really resourced and upskilled to make that positive change. The world has changed. They see the world differently, but I think it's important that we upskill them to not only build peace, but also to create a really bright, creative and vibrant future for all the kids in Northern Ireland. I think it's actually harder to be a young person now. It's first like social media, world politics, poverty, COVID. I think the challenges that we grew up with are still there and they're very real, but there's an extra layer for the new people. And I just think it's trying to find their identity and go out and explore the world. It's a great opportunity for them, but also it's very easy to be dragged back by negativity. But I'm really optimistic for the future, particularly young people who have come through what we have seen in Northern Ireland and can use that experience to help create a better world for us all.
Next is a local woman, Maureen Hetherington. Maureen was responsible for the Community Relations Programme for Derry City Council for 10 years and then worked in the Junction, a community relations and peacebuilding initiative set up to address the fragmentation in the field of peacebuilding. She has also worked on many other aspects, including ethical remembering. Next is Mary Bryan. Mary Bryan is in Manchester today, but obviously she's very familiar to this city as she works in Wales Women's Aid. We have an event actually next Tuesday where we will pass on the award, and that's about gender coercive control by paramilitaries. And again, it shows you that in 2024 there's still criminal and paramilitary organisations who try to control women in their communities, which is unacceptable. And that piece of research is very, very important and timely. So we'll do that next week with Mary. Next is Pauline Ross. Pauline was taught at primary school by none other than Pat Hume. Pauline is the founder of the award-winning multidisciplinary arts centre, The Playhouse, and she was involved in many art and peace projects, including the Witness for Peace programme.
Growing up in a community where there was community action and community committees and all, it was a very natural thing to help each other. There were hard times in the 50s in this town, so I suppose it was like natural. And anyway, having a love of theatre and dance and music, if your parents couldn't afford it, what do you do? So I went to a project that talked about positive thinking. And I says, we don't have a theatre here. And I set about getting an education, doing a degree, and started the Playhouse, which was a multidisciplinary arts centre. It showed me the power of communication and the power how singing and music and theatre and storytelling can soften the hurt, the grief and the trauma of conflicts. My hope for the future in peace and reconciliation and conflict resolution is that it's imperative that it keeps going. We have another generation coming up. At times we all know that peace can be very fragile in this part of the world, so we have to respect that peace. It is a journey, it's not a destination. and diversity is our strength. And we need to look beyond the skin colour, the accent, the background, and see the human being. We're all human beings, and we've got to respect that with the greatest integrity and understanding.
I'm sure the next one I'll have the biggest cheer, but you've got the most fans here today, is Breezy Willow. Having previously worked on the Heritage and School scheme and her project Silly Books, Breezy now works in fostering peace and unity through Bake Bread for Peace initiative, which started in 2014. And you may have eaten some of her scones today, but when she was nominated, so many people have contacted me about attending today, so that's why our fan club is here. Congratulations, Breezy.
I wakened up, the news, while I was waiting on the kettle to boil, the news switched it on, and I hadn't been watching the news for months and months, and I was horrified at the dis-ease that had developed even more in our world. What I felt immediately was fear. Fear for myself, selfishly, fear for my grandchildren yet to be born, fear for the animals, our fellow animals, fear for everything. My mother was a great reference point for me. I remember as children, my father was a drinker, and very often when he'd be on the binge, you know, it was walking on eggshells. And my mother used to gather my brothers and sisters and I, and we'd bake together, and Mammy would sing songs, and, you know, just to block out what was going on the other side of the kitchen door. And I had an idea to, maybe we could get a few local heads together to create a wee event to at least let it be known that we want peace in our world. So I posted something on my own personal Facebook page later that morning, and the response, it led to the creation of International Bake Bread for Peace Day. My hopes are that communities become communities again. You know, that you're not, you don't know your next door neighbour, that you don't have the freedom to, listen, I'm out of milk, could I get a jug till I get, community, we have to bring life and communion back to our communities. And what I hope in the next 25 years is that our world leaders will wise up and start reading their holy books again, because not in one of them does it condone what they're all doing.
Okay, next is Ivy Goddard. Woo! Ivy is project leader of the Ballymena Inter-Ethnic Forum, represents BME communities on the regional race equality subgroup. She's also the vice chair of the Strategic Alliance of Mid and East Antrim Borough Council, and is a member of the Labour Market Partnership. She was awarded an MP in June 2013.
For me, the importance of inclusion of minority ethnic communities, fighting for racial equality, for justice, respect and inclusion of all is what inspired me to work in this field and to ensure that there is peace in our communities. Peace building is a long process. We're never done. And even though I've been in the field for nearly 20 years, I know that there is so much more to be done. There's always new issues that come to the fore. Currently, over 10% of the population are minority ethnic communities. The landscape is changing continuously. After Brexit, we find that there are a lot of people coming from countries that weren't here before, like for instance from the Philippines. So the work is continuous, and to ensure that they are also included, that there is peace, that there is social justice for them, that they are treated with respect, and that goes on.
Next is Julia Key. Julia is from a unionist community in Northern Ireland, but has worked in community development and good relations since 2002. Julia coordinated European peace-funded programmes, most recently with 800 young people across Northern Ireland border counties with YMCA Ireland. She has worked in peace building, a number of areas working for the YMCA and Gateway to Protestant Participation and the establishment of the Londonderry Bands for. Okay, next is Stevie Hughes. I'm enjoying this one, Stevie. Stevie took a bit of persuasion to accept this award, but he is accepting on behalf of the young people he's worked with. He's in his 41st year of service to children and young people, and now employed in St Peter's Immaculata in Lower Falls. He's always understood the impacts of working with young people living in contested communities, those impacted by segregation and the sectarian division of Belfast peace walls.
I suppose my own journey in peace building has been through youth work. So as a young person, I took part in what we called cross-community activities in those days, and it set me up for an understanding and a different perspective on the segregation and division that we live with every day. So my motivation is to create the same journey that I had, and to create that journey for other children and young people. The segregation that we should have seen ending in 1998 continues to be a challenge and a barrier for many children and young people, especially those living in interface areas. So I suppose I want to see something different. I want to see change, and I want to see a future without walls, and a future where we're more pluralist, more interdependent, and we enjoy and celebrate each other's cultures and traditions.
The next, actually, they're individual, but they're going to be a double act, is Geraldine O'Kane and Cathy Rourke, because they work together in Whitewell Road in North Belfast. They are a sort of duet, and you're very welcome. They've worked together. Cathy's from the White City Community Development Association, and Geraldine of Greencastle Community Empowerment Partnership together decided to form a new organisation that overarched between both communities and from this greater Whitewell community. They focus on the we rather than us and them.
I don't think that we see ourselves as peacemakers. You know, in all honesty, I think that was a big shock for us when we'd been nominated. I actually thought Cathy was winding me up, and then she thought that Tim was winding her up. I think at the end of the day, when you're a community activist, you know, and you've got children on the ground, you just want peace. You just want anything that will prevent them from getting hurt.
Absolutely. It's you don't want them to live through what you lived through. You don't want them to live through petrol bombs. You don't want them to live through getting searched, opening your handbag. And it's lovely, hearts changing. But as Geraldine says, you don't see yourself as a peacemaker. You just do what you do because for us, it's for the better good. It's for the better good of our areas. Mm-hmm. It's for the better good of the people who live in our areas. And most importantly, it's for all those little children that's coming up in behind. This is their future. We lived through all that. They can't live through what we did. It's just insane. It's inhumane. It has to be better. Absolutely has to be better.
Mm-hmm. The children can't have any more feeling that they can't go about with or date people from a different religion. You know, there's that guilt that they would have on both sides. You've got to get them so that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you come from. Absolutely. You know, join together. You know, if you fancy somebody, you fancy them. You know what I mean? Regardless of their colour, religion, or creed. And that's kind of, as Cathy always alludes to, you know, our kids deserve better. And maybe because we have been through it, it's given us a wiser sort of view on what's important and what's not important.
Well, when we voted, it was about orange and green. Everybody coming up now, or the younger generation coming up now, they vote for policies, they vote for what's important to them. We didn't really have that choice. You were told basically who you were voting for, and it always came back to orange and green, and that's changing, so much changing now, and it's wonderful. We work on the ground, changing people's attitudes underhanded sometimes, but the politicians have to take responsibility. If we can work as a them, not a them and us, and as a we, well then they have to do the same.
I think at the end of the day, the children need normality. They need to know what a normal upbringing is, that all they have to do is worry about their jobs, which is bad enough, their futures, their visions, that they don't have to worry about where do you come from? You know, are you from an interface? Are you taken on because you have someone living on the Antrim Road as opposed to someone living in the interface, where the perception of young people living in the interface is very negative. And that's not usually the truth, though.
Okay, next is Eamon Dean, who's obviously from the city as well. Sally and Eamon Dean have been supporting each other to build peace in this community for over 5 decades. Together they have formed a formidable team committed to improving the lives of people locally. Eamon is an experienced educator and has worked for multiple organisations, notably Hollywell Trust from 1988 till 2014. Next is our second person from Donegal. It's PJ Hallinan. PJ has been involved in youth sport and community on both sides of the border, including the management committee of Border Horizons, representing the southern side. After visiting the Somme, he decided to use the shared history of the 36th Ulster Division and the 16th Irish Division as a peace-building project, working with Maydown Aberdeen Peace School, Inishowen Development Partnership, Fort Dunree, and others. A border project called Youth 52 was set up and was hugely successful.
I was involved all my life in youth and sport, community stuff, all that there. And I was working with Glenbar, and at that time we started up. We built the whole thing up and we got structures in place, we got programs up and we got them going. But there was one day we were sorting stuff out, and Glennie told me that they were going to Belgium or going to the Somme with a group of people, and would I come out, take a look at what they were trying to do, and it might be a way of getting funding out of peace funding. My report was this has tremendous potential to bring people together with our shared history of the 36th Ulster Division and the 16th Irish Division. Forget about the border pole and that there. It's about people. And it's about bringing people together by whatever means, and there are many means, be it sport, be it business, be it whatever, and you know, just taking the blinkers off a bit and look at the person.
Next is Dr. Frank Gavin, Emeritus Professor at Queen's University. He's been an academic for 40 plus years, including periods at 2 universities in the United States. He's been a government advisor on strategies for employability, EU Peace Programme, urban programmes, and has worked with the Community Relations Council in the production of peace monitoring reports. He's most recently a peace guardian and has done a lot of work on shared space.
You know, from the time I was 18, 19, I was involved in labour politics, trade union, Northern Ireland Labour Party. And so I was engaged even then, you know, around non-sectarian, anti-sectarian politics. And when I got involved in community development, I found a lot of it, unfortunately, was tied within sectarian communities. So I was keen to really work with those in the community sector that were engaged across community around similar campaigns that affected both sides of the community, around housing, transport, and issues like that. History is always understood in terms of narratives, and who gets to tell the predominant story, you know, gets to tell the history. And there's a danger in that the people who are quiet peace builders don't get heard, and that the story gets told through a series of murals and other devices about the glories of those who adopted violence in one way or another. So I think it's important that we resist that, and that we hear the voices of many who did not adopt violence, who thought that you could deal with difference in a non-violent way.
And the last person is Jackie Redpath, who also can't be with us today, unfortunately, and he sends his apologies. But obviously Jackie, probably one of the better known nominees, has worked in redevelopment and regeneration of the Shankill area for many, many decades. Indeed, he's worked with Frank Gaffigan on many urban regeneration projects like Shave the Shankill campaign. His passion is education, and he established the Greater Shankill Partnership and created the Early Years Project in Shankill Road. Again, for Davy, Jackie and Mary, we will organise to hand over their individual certificates and presents at a later date.